I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Sorry. I have spent a lot of time presenting the series concerning righteousness of faith, and I am still continuing doing the same. So far, we are at a level of discovering that we have several situations which ends in righteousness, or which ends with a letter righteous, or a word righteous. For example, we talked of that publican man, he was unrighteous. And then we talked of a righteous Pharisee whose works were very good. So he carried the righteousness of works, or righteousness of the law. Okay, all of those can work. Or man's, as they call it in the Bible. Now, being gender sensitive, we say human righteousness. You see, being gender sensitive. We hardly say man is righteous. We say human righteousness. He carried it. Yeah. And then we discovered that in terms of salvation, there's a problem between these two. Yeah, the unrighteous one cannot inherit heaven, and even the righteous one with a righteousness of the law cannot inherit heaven, because heaven can only be inherited by only one type of righteousness, which is called God's righteousness. Yes. It can also be called the righteousness of faith, but it can only be inherited by God's righteousness, or righteousness of God. Why righteousness of God? Because it is his heaven, and it is his righteousness, which can reign in heaven. And it is his righteousness as the chief creator which can put everything together which he has created. No any other righteousness can do so. This is where there's a big misunderstanding. Remember, I am soon coming to the conclusion of the relationship between faith and works, as it was asked. But now I have showed you that works are there, okay, standing on their own. There's nothing wrong with good works. In terms of society, we are very thankful to those with good works. But to inherit heaven with those good naked works, you simply cannot. You can't go to heaven with that naked works of yours. Why? Let me remind you what happened to you when Adam sinned. Adam lost his faith, and God withdrew his righteousness. That was the most unfortunate part to look at as far as this planet is concerned. He withdrew his righteousness, which is his divinity, and humanity remained naked completely. And after immediately the state of sin set in. And that state of sin took the whole humanity captive. Everywhere we are sick people. It took this planet captive as well. It took everything on this planet captive. Trees, as long as it was a creation, it was taken captive by the state of sin. And then the simple example, or the to get the empirical example is death. Death comes primarily where the presence of the state of sin is. Remember, I told you sins are just symptoms. You see, yes, the state of sin produces sins. And that's why I am not emphasizing sins. Because overcoming sins alone, you have not overcome the state of sin. Let me repeat. Overcoming sins, you see, which you are doing, or the actions or the acts of sin, does not mean that you have overcome the state of sin. You can't do that. That's not the same. That's why good works alone cannot take you to heaven, because in heaven there will be no beings with the state of sin. But they have been keeping the law. There's also another complication here. You see, the law is not what you do only. I mean, sins is not only what you do, but it is what you are. Also mentally, you see, even simple thinking wrong about your neighbor you have killed. Looking at a woman and you lust, you have already committed adultery. Those kind of situations, God is showing us that we are really in a terrible predicament. Our emphasis here, or religious emphasis, is only on doing. As long as you are doing good, they take you to be a perfect man. But that is not true with heaven. Because as long as a perfect man dies, it shows that he is carrying the state of sin, which cannot enter heaven. That's why in the book of Revelation, he will give you a new body. You see, and even the New Testament comes and emphasizes that this one which can rot, which means the one which is inhabited by or taken captive by the state of sin, it will be removed from me, and I will be given a new body which has now the power of the righteousness of God, where death cannot come and command anything. That's why Paul says it will be a satire. We will make a satire of death with my new body now. Where is your power of death? Where is your sting? Look at my new body. Well, death will be quiet completely, because where there is no state of sin, it can't sting. It actually disappears completely. And God cannot cleanse or completely change my body to a new body, and the planet Earth remains covered with the state of sin. That's why he will burn it up completely, and he will create a new one, as the book of Revelation tells you. And let us never make a mistake of glorifying our good works. Because when you glorify good works, you are committing a terrible setback in your Christian experience. Hey, listen to that. You will become so proud that for you, you are better than others, as the Pharisees were. Yes, and you will not even take time to say, what must I do? You see, to change my situation. The question is not what you must do. The question is simple. What must I believe? Or faith. What must I faith to change my situation? Immediately, your situation cannot be changed by you. It is God who changes it. Since this Pharisee was standing on his good works alone, and he forgot that actions do not remedy the state of sin. It is God who does it for you. He could not get salvation. He came back with his good works and with his state of sin. And he will always try to be good, but in terms of salvation, he's going nowhere. Because I wanted to remind you what the law could not do. Because of Paul says, the sinful nature, which is the state of sin, which I have in me. Jesus Christ did it by condemning the state of sin in my flesh. See? That is what it is. Now, we have what it is called the context encounter in everything. We have context encounter. And somebody now wonders, if I have faith, what do I do with good works? And that's where we are now heading. When you have good works, yes, don't throw them away, but realize that they cannot save you nakedly without the context of Jesus Christ. Good works can only be meaningful in the context of Jesus Christ. The law without Jesus Christ can't save anybody. That is simple theology. When Jesus came, the law was there, but it hadn't saved not a single soul. I told you that it is there as a whistleblower, that there's a catastrophe here. It announces a catastrophe. And then you turn to the Lord and say, do you have any remedy? He says, no, I have no remedy. Myself is to inform you that you are facing a catastrophe. But many people stop there and say, well, after all, hey, the law says thou shalt kill, and I have never killed. Then that shows that I don't really have a problem with the law. You are kidding yourself, because the word sin, or the state of sin, is bigger than what you think. It is not only limited to good actions or actions which come out of you. You see, it can even be defined when there's no action, and it is mental. It is only until you are changed this body, that's when your mental will begin to think straight, well, and good works will flow very easily from you, because it has context, a good context. I wanted to remind you though that I told you good works in heaven and other planets which are covered with the righteousness of God. It is their culture. It flows very well. It isn't news when somebody does good works in those planets. By the way, if something happens to those planets and they are invaded by their own choice, by the state of sin, that's what will be news. Now for us here, it is in news, and it is pride to do good things. You see, I tell you, behave as I do, and you are informing me purely on your actions. You know, I warn you and I submit to you that don't look at the actions. Look at that total individual who is telling you. We don't even have a single prophet or prophetess who has not yet died. Did those prophets die because they were committing adultery, and they were stealing, and they were breaking the Sabbath? The answer is no. They died with all their good works, we name them, but because they had the state of sin in their bodies. They were sin themselves. Every human you see walking on this planet, be careful, is sin. Expect the worst from them. If something happens that you have received some good treatment from them, okay, thank God. But that does not make them saints. You see, yes. That is simply makes them that with good works, they have struggled, and in terms of action, they have now reached where they have reached, but they are still sinful. You see, they are sinners proper. They carry sinful nature. You see, as they stand and reprimand people, they themselves as sin themselves. You see, that's why they drop dead, because that's what precisely whoever carries a body with the state of sin passes from being to nothingness. Now, let's turn to faith. And faith can always help us in this one. The publican turned to faith. Yes, turned to faith. And no single human being ever in the New Testament who turned to faith, Jesus ever gave a lecture. And I'll show you. No single human being in the New Testament who turned to Jesus, you see, in faith. In faith. Jesus gave a lecture. Jesus simply appreciated. Let us look at this publican, and then we will look at Zacchaeus, and then we will see so many others. Here you are with the publican. He is sinful, yes. He tends to say, "Have mercy upon me as a sinner." That simple statement, as simple as it sounds, is a statement of faith. It is a statement of faith. And immediately the publican got faith. You see, in God, he immediately received salvation without any pretext of reminding him that, remember, you were like this once, you did it this yesterday, blah blah blah. There's no such a lecture. Instantaneously, the publican became the son of God immediately by that statement alone. Have mercy upon me, a sinner. He became a son of God, and he was imputed with the righteousness of God. Imputed. And the conflict now will begin in his life. The righteousness of God has been imputed upon him. He is born with the state of sin. Then what happens? That's where all of your problem is, all of you. You see, who are Christians, and this is what we are now taking on. God bless us.